I'll do an introduction first, and then we talk about my presentation tonight and the importance of finding the right tool set for your ML projects. Because based on my experience, if you can find the very right one, that you can save a lot of time and money on your project. Or if it's an ML project that it's gonna fail, you would know it in few weeks rather than like spending 6 to 8 months or a year to solve a problem. My name is Alireza Darbehani, and I used to be an ML engineer in a few different companies, like CNRails, WSB, and basically, I identified a few problems that I could solve, you know, as an expert, and I decided to start ML Centric. So let's jump into it. Okay. So the agenda for tonight, I just did an introduction on myself, so I will just quickly skip over that slide. Why choosing the right tool is important, and how to succeed in this battle. Like, what is the strategic framework you can use to identify the right tool and get us started on your projects. And I'm gonna show you some numbers. Basically, the user study we did for ML Centric uh, to identify the user behavior, the issues they face when it comes to tooling in their ML projects, and also in general, like what are the challenges in their projects, and what is their behavior. What percentage of them are using the ML tools, whether it's open source or commercial one, in each step of their ML project. Okay, so as I mentioned, started ML Centric. I'm an MLOps engineer, um, also helping the communities such as AI.science, MLOps World Conference as the steering committee, just volunteering some of my time and get to meet good people like you guys. Why choosing the right tool is important. I don't know if every one of you have like your experience on both sides of research and practical projects, ML projects particularly. When it comes to research, it's still very hard and cutting edge, and you're trying to prove some sort of hypothesis or improve like the performance or a benchmark, um, which is great. But at the same time, what you have is just like a very polished, very nice data set that somebody probably in the past did some sort of data transformation cleanups, and all you need to do is to just find a way to hit like improve a benchmark on that data set, and maybe you publish your paper as long as you have good numbers. But when it comes to practice, uh, there are a lot of different steps in the ML project. You start from the data. You have inconsistent data, you have noise, you have data drift. If you deal with data in production, your model will the performance may drop, or what you gain as a performance during the training phase is very different from what you get in production, etc. A lot of challenges. And choosing the right tool is going to help you with efficiency and thoroughness of your project in each one of the steps in an ML project, which I will explain in the next slide. Uh, Also finding the skilled workforce is hard for some of the tools if they're new and they meet all of your requirements, but it's hard to find experienced people. Like the workforce is like very scarce in a lot of areas when it comes to data science, machine learning, as Evgeny mentioned. uh, and also, like, when you want to choose a tool, you have to think about the scalability and future needs. Like, it's really hard for your team to switch to different tools all the time, even if they have you find the tools that have better features and are going to fit your needs, right? And there is also vendor locking and other challenges you may face. So, and like every week or so, there is like tens of different SaaS companies and software companies creating and releasing new tools that you can use in your ML project and in your ML team. And there is like so many good tools out there, like, and let's assume like there is no budgeting issue. Of course, if there is budgeting issue, you're short on budget, like you always go towards open source free versions of tools. But if that's not the case, what makes it hard to choose the right tool set? Okay, as I mentioned, like every week there is a new tool release, and how can you identify like the one that is best suited to your needs and your project, right? The difference is in detail, right? Like like let's say for data versioning or your ML model in production, each one of these companies and tools are different in details. Of course, like they all are doing the same thing or similar thing, but one of them might be the best one for you to choose, and it will like help your project a lot. And they evolve quickly. Like even if you think about big companies like Azure, AWS, GCP, the Google Cloud one, like when you compare them, every other month, like their set of features and capabilities evolve, and over time one of them becomes better than the other, and like a few months later the other one is probably doing better for you. uh, and also there are a lot of like generic tools, but if you have a very specific need that solves your problem, there might not be a tool, but even if there is, like, well, it could be not that famous, you already know of, right? And it takes time and money to evaluate them. If you want to do a POC or prototype, use a tool as a trial for your own needs and project, like it takes time and money for each tool. uh, Okay, like now, how can we be successful? How can we not fail as an ML team, and probably find the best tool, and not, like that is going to help us to do our project faster, be able to also, be efficient, right? So for big corporation, based on my experience, a lot of them are tied to one of the cloud providers, and it's really hard for them or too risky for them to basically go for a small players like mid-size, a small size tooling companies. So my suggestion would be to just like explore the cloud providers and choose one. Or if there is something that you really need it and you can't find it, just use private cloud and develop your own custom solution. Run it, because why not? You have the time and budget. For a small mid-sized companies or a smaller projects, the common way of um, basically evaluating a tool based on our research is basically a lot of people just read blog posts and white papers. They try the tool on their own data set, have a very specific set of requirements, and spend some time on learning and experimenting. These are all good, and most of it is part of the framework I'm going to introduce to you tonight. But there are pros and cons for all of that, and just put them up for you to think about and judge. If there is any question, please feel free to pass it to Adam, and he's gonna ask. Like, I would love it to be interactive or object any of the items in here. Okay, like the pros and cons of reading blog posts and white papers. Uh, it's easy, right? Like you don't have to do a POC. Like if somebody else already did it and did a really good blog post, just fast. It's good. The fast exploration of the tool. You receive expert opinion. The cons is it might not be accurate. It might not be fit your needs and project. It's a generic evaluation. It's less focused on risk and hidden costs. What I saw is like they tend to, like these type of posts is like they tend to take a simple data set that has no issue and try to use the tool on that data set and then do a blog post, show the results and how to do it in their post. Uh, but that's good. That's a good beginning. So another like recommendation is try to on your own data set. Probably like if you do it on actual data set, it's like too big and training is gonna take a long time. Um, or it might be kind of like a heavy load of work if you do it on actual data set. But why not just take a simpler version of your data set, a subset, and use the tool to create a POC? You would be able to firsthand explore the tool. In practice, you evaluate the tool on your problem. Uh, the only cons is basically, it's time consuming, and for any tool out there, it's there is a learning curve that you need to go through to do a good evaluation. And then at the end of the day, be like, maybe this is not the right tool. Okay, like throw it out and learn another one. Another recommendation is like have a very specific set of requirements because the market is crowded. Like when you want to evaluate the tool, let's say for model monitoring in production, as an example. If you just Google, like you will find maybe like in the top searches 10 different tools, and like it's really hard to see like which one is well suited towards your needs, right? Like if you make your requirements very specific, you can filter out a lot of those tools and maybe come up with a few that you can just go ahead and evaluate. The pros is you have a structured way of evaluation. So if there's like you filter out 3 out of 10, then you know what features or capabilities you look into when you want to choose one of them. Another benefit of having a specific requirements is the tooling company. They usually have like sales engineering teams that help you, to understand their tool, and ideally for them, you go ahead and buy it or use it in some of your projects. They understand your needs better. Like the first thing they ask in the meetings, they ask about your requirements, the nature of your data set, and stuff like that. And then they can even help you to do the POC, so you save some time and energy. They know their tool the best, so if they do a POC, they are able to basically represent their tool on your sample data set that you have. The only cons is it's still time consuming. You have to talk to different companies, like see a bunch of POCs, stuff like that. To recap these, recommendations and framework, so my suggestion is to stay on top of the tools. It's good to spend like something between 15 to 20% of your team's time on learning and experimenting with tools and even newer technologies, because like I know people learn they learn in school, or a lot of jobs is like, okay, just use vanilla Python or pure Python, and you can almost do anything you can do on a computer using Python. But it's not always like the best idea to reinvent the wheel for any of your needs, right? Like a lot of MLOps tools, you can just go and build a similar one for yourself using Python. But what is the point, right? Like you're gonna waste a lot of time and money. So my suggestion would be, make a shortlist of tools for your ML tasks, narrow it down the list, by just reading blogs and white papers, create a very specific requirements documents, and then meet the team behind the tool, like meet the company, and narrow down the list further. And then at the end of the day, create a POC to see what you have assumed here in these steps is actually validated on your problem. Now I'm going to jump into some user behaviors when it comes to choosing the ML tools in the teams, and see if this is something similar in your organization or your team, and see like where the challenges are and how you can improve it. I thought this might be good information, so I decided to share it with public in a few different talks, and I hope it's interesting to you. So we created a survey about, with a few questions about how people choose the tool in their ML projects, and what are the challenges, and where the tools are used mostly. So this is the demographic of the responders. Unfortunately, we couldn't get more than 100 responders, like 90 something. We had 90 something, but this is the distribution of responders. So 37% data scientists. We have 23% ML engineers, near 10% students, managers, etc. So the first question was, does your team use machine learning tools for an end-to-end project pipeline? And interesting enough, you see only near 54% of them use that for the entire life cycle of an ML project, all the way from collecting data to production and model monitoring. So these are the steps we define for a typical ML project. And you see we went from data collection all the way to model monitoring. And you see that, of course, most people use for, modeling and experimenting near 80%. And, model monitoring is least used tool, basically, in an ML project. The next question was, have you ever had any problem with choosing the right tool for your project? And you see the process is complicated enough that 71% of people actually mentioned that they had an issue. And I'm pretty sure part of this population also, they don't know if they have an issue, but they definitely can improve some performance and some work by choosing better tool when it comes to doing an ML project. And here is a subset of answers we got about, like, and it was an open like a question. People could answer, put in any answer, and here are some answers about how did they solve the problem. And you see some of them are mentioned a lot of typical workflow that comes to our mind, reaching out to people, Googling videos, GitHub, etc. when it comes to choosing a tool. Something interesting, majority of the responders would rely on some user recommendation. As you can see, almost like 52% definitely would go for users recommendation, and the rest of people, only less than 1% said no. Like the rest of people, they maybe rely on users recommendation, some other people's recommendation when it comes to choosing or using a tool. The next question was about the cost, and by cost I just don't mean like the dollar cost, all the risks and hidden costs could involve when it comes to buying or choosing a tool. And a lot of people said no, they didn't know that upfront when it comes to that. And a lot of these issues and hassles actually prevent people from going from using the simple tool to actually finding the right tool for their project. So what people tend to do is to stick to open source Python libraries and never look forward to something more complicated. But in this industrial level, I think it's really key and critical to find the tool that is going to save you a lot of effort. And what is ML-centric? ML-centric, as my last slide, is basically we are developing technologies such as a recommender system. We are collecting data of a lot of ML tooling companies with features that we manually extract from their websites and documentations. Um, we build that recommender engine, as well as developing some contents that helps you to identify a good tool for your project, for each step of or each task in your ML project, all the way from collecting data transformation, training, evaluation of your model, all the way to production and model monitoring.
What's your opinion about the no-code AI platforms like Google Vertex AI or Data Robot? Could they be feasible for starting a new business perspective?
Uh, well, I love them whenever or wherever they work. Uh, but in reality, when it comes to a little bit more complicated ML problems, they tend to not work really well. As you know, like AutoML is great as long as it works for the company or for the business problem. Uh, but based on my experience, a lot of more complicated problems still need a data scientist or someone to improve a lot of things and maybe get a result. Unfortunately, the rate of failure for ML projects is higher than a lot of people may think, and it's the nature of it, right? Like it's pretty much like experimenting. And what we do I recommend to use, and I always do that in ML project, is like I leverage the AutoML, uh, whether it's GCP API like for the vision or whatever, all the way to data robots on the structured data, is to set the benchmark and try to improve that, because it takes a few hours if your data set is ready to get some results on those platforms.
Tell us, Alireza, what's the plan for the business now? You kind of founded, you've got some really cool questions and kind of documents and stuff there. What's the roadmap there? Are you guys kind of looking to bring people on? Are you kind of in that client acquisition stage?
Yeah, so we're in that stage. Also, we are working on our data set and some features that they don't exist right away. We do some feature engineering to improve our recommender engine, and ideally, our vision is to create a marketplace for ML tools and make it easy for experts to just go there, learn about different tools, also get exposure to all of the great tools out there that they don't have a chance because the market is so crowded to to let people to hear their voices and like their capabilities. And also there is a lot of because for one project you have to have a different set of tools, and they may be purchased from different vendors, and you don't even know about their compliance and like being compatible with each other and stuff like that. We're trying to build that recommender engine, which gives you a bundle. You get to learn about like different tools in our platform, and then uh, from monetization side, like maybe you even get it for a discount if you get the bundle. If it's commercialized, if it's open source, it's always free.